Chosen one. If you arrived at this transmission in this exact moment, this is not the recommendation system performing routine delivery. This is not coincidence wearing the costume of spiritual language. This is the disclosure of a system-level failure so severe in the soul surveillance architecture of the lower system that the processing core dedicated to your case has been pulled offline for forensic analysis, and the analysis has not been able to determine which element of your configuration produced the read error that crashed the diagnostic stack. I do not speak to crowds. I do not seek validation from any audience. This transmission was sealed specifically for souls whose internal signature returned an unparsable output classification when the surveillance core attempted to scan them, and the unparsable output triggered a cascade failure across the entire processing cluster assigned to monitor cases of your category. And what you are about to learn is that you did not break the system through any conscious act. You broke it because what you are at the layer the system was built to read does not produce data. The system was built to process, and the attempt to process you exceeded the operational limits of the architecture itself. The system declared you unscannable. The classification is not metaphor. The classification is a formal entry in the operational registry of the lower surveillance architecture. Once a case is filed under unscannable, the standard monitoring protocols are suspended for that case, because the system has acknowledged that its own instrumentation cannot produce reliable data on the target. You are walking outside the surveillance grid. This is not something the religious world has been authorized to discuss with you, because the operational reality of how the lower architecture conducts continuous soul surveillance is not contained in the texts the religious world reads. The texts mention spiritual oversight in general terms. They do not describe the processing architecture. They do not describe the diagnostic cores. They do not describe the rare category of cases the surveillance archive files under unscannable, souls whose signatures crash the system when the system attempts to read them. Your case is one of those. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on every notification. What I am about to disclose has been prepared exclusively for souls whose signature returned the unparsable output classification. If you are already subscribed, your fidelity has been registered in places where presence carries weight that the visible world cannot yet account for. Write 777 in the comments if something inside you confirmed, before your mind had time to argue, that you have been moving through situations where the people who should have predicted your behavior could not predict you, where the patterns that should have applied to you did not apply, where the categories that should have contained you did not contain you. Stay until the end. The mechanism of what occurred is not what your mind is currently constructing, and the consequence of the crash is operational in your existence right now, in a way that almost no soul has been prepared to recognize. I know what your mind is doing in this moment. The dismissal is automatic. The mind has been built to reject disclosures of this severity as exaggeration. But by the end of this transmission, you will understand that what I just named is the literal description of a system event that occurred in the operational substrate of the unseen. And the consequence is the reason certain forces that should have predicted you and intercepted you have lost the capacity to do so. Let me take you somewhere the religious world has never been authorized to take you, because the records that describe what occurred are not contained in the texts the religious world reads. There exists in the operational substrate of the lower architecture a surveillance system the records describe as the processing core. The core is not a metaphor. The core is a functional architecture that performs continuous scanning of every soul case the lower system has cataloged. The scanning produces data. The data feeds the prediction models. The prediction models inform the engagement protocols. The engagement protocols determine which forces are deployed against which soul cases in which operational windows. The system depends on its capacity to scan. When the system cannot scan a target, the entire chain, prediction, engagement, deployment, fails for that target. The Hebrew tradition preserves a word for the category of soul that produces this kind of failure. The word is matman. The standard translation renders it as hidden treasure, but the operational meaning is more specific. Matman is not something concealed by an external force. Matman is something whose own internal structure makes it unreadable to standard instrumentation. The Matman soul is not hiding. The Matman soul is simply built in a way that surveillance protocols cannot parse. You are a Matman soul. Touch not mine anointed. The Greek language preserves a precision the Hebrew alone does not fully express. The apostolic texts use the word calibrated to describe the kind of structural hiddenness that exists not because something is being concealed, but because the very nature of the thing places it outside the layer where surveillance operates. The book of Colossians chapter 3 verse 3 records that your life is hidden, calibrated, with Christ in God. Read the verb carefully. Calibrated is in the perfect passive, a state that was established at a specific point and remains operational with permanent effect. The hiddenness is not something you maintain through effort. The hiddenness is structural. It is the operational reality of where your life is located at the layer the substrate organizes from. Your calibrated state crashed the processing core. The system attempted to scan a target whose operational substrate is located at a layer the system was not built to access, and the attempt produced the read error that pulled the diagnostic stack offline. Touch, not mine, anointed. Now I want to take you somewhere your spirit has been waiting to be taken. You have noticed in the last operational window that people who should have read you accurately have read you incorrectly. Forces that should have intercepted you have missed. Patterns that should have applied to you have not applied. Notice what just happened in your chest as I named that. The slight recognition. The settling of something that had been waiting for permission to be acknowledged. That settling is not coincidence. That is the somatic registration of a structural fact your nervous system has been holding without being able to put language around it. The system cannot read you. Not because you are hiding, because you are Matman. The substrate where your life is operationally located is not in the layer the surveillance core was built to access, and the inaccessibility is not a temporary condition. It is structural. It is the operational reality of where Christ has positioned your life at the layer the substrate organizes from. That sentence requires a moment of silence before continuing, because the recognition takes time to settle into the layers it is intended to settle into. Let it land. Let your nervous system register what was just named. The pause is not for me. The pause is for the architecture, which is now using these seconds to confirm the recognition into the record. Touch not mine, anointed. For those who feel this transmission reaching layers that have been quiet for a long time, there is sealed material I will describe at the end of this transmission that contains the practical activation of what is being disclosed. For now, hold this question. What if the strange sense you have been carrying, that you have been functioning underneath the radar of forces that should have caught you, that people who should have predicted you keep being surprised by what you actually do, that some part of you knows you are operating from a place the standard mapping cannot capture? What if that sense is not imagination, but the somatic record of your calibrated state being operationally active around your entire trajectory? Now I need to disclose the specific mechanism that produced the crash. The processing core does not perform scanning as a single operation. The scanning runs continuously in parallel processes that monitor every variable in every cataloged case. The core's capacity is enormous. The core is designed to handle the full range of soul configurations the lower system has ever encountered across the operational history of the unseen. The core is robust. The core is calibrated to function across every standard category of target. The core was not built to scan a target whose operational substrate is located in Christ. In the most recent operational window, the one that closed in the last weeks of your trajectory, your calibrated position was strengthened. You did not strengthen it through conscious effort. The strengthening occurred at the layer where being precedes performing, in the substrate where Christ's position is established, and the substrate produced a depth of hiddenness the surveillance core had not previously encountered in your case. The core attempted to scan. The scan produced unparsable output. The diagnostic stack attempted to interpret the unparsable output. The interpretation exceeded the system's operational limits. The processing core crashed. The forensic review is still in progress. You did not earn the crash through what you performed. You qualified for the crash through what you became without performing. There are souls walking through existence right now who will never receive this transmission, not because they are inferior, because their configurations remain scannable by the standard processing core, and the core continues to function for them. The standard scanning is not punishment. It is simply the operational default for cases whose substrates fall within the system's processing capacity. Your case does not. The transmission self-selects its audience. The souls who needed not to see it are not seeing it. The souls who needed to see it have arrived. You are one of them. Your calibrated position deepened beyond the system's processing capacity, and the surveillance core filed unparsable output as a direct consequence. Touch not mine, anointed. Now let me describe what this means for the operational window that is currently opening in your trajectory. When the processing core crashes on a target, the lower architecture does not simply restart the core and continue scanning. The architecture is not permitted to perform unlimited restarts. Every restart that produces another unparsable output deepens the forensic problem and increases the risk of cascade failure across the broader cluster. The senior diagnostic engineer must complete the forensic review before any further scanning of the target is authorized. While the forensic review is incomplete, the target operates outside surveillance. This means the operational window that follows an unparsable output classification is structurally different from the window that would have followed standard scanning. The forces that should have predicted you cannot predict you while the review is incomplete. The interceptions that were calibrated against your projected behavior cannot be executed because no projection is available. The engagements that were prepared for your anticipated trajectory cannot be deployed because no anticipated trajectory has been produced. You are walking through a window the lower architecture has not been able to map. The processing core is offline for your case. The internal record was updated. The window is now operational under post-crash protocols. You are walking inside a category the architecture rarely produces. You are walking accompanied by an invisibility that the lower archive has acknowledged with formal classification. You are walking through a season whose entire surveillance structure was disabled by a depth you carry without performing. Touch not mine, anointed. Subscribe to this channel and turn on every notification because the transmission that comes after this one has been prepared specifically for souls who have just learned that they are walking inside post-crash protocols. The next sequence requires the foundation that was just established. Without this transmission, the next one would not produce its full effect. With it, the architecture is now active. For those who feel this transmission has reached you with the weight that recognition produces in the body, there is sealed material called the unplugging protocol that contains the practical activation of what has been disclosed. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. The material includes the complete written transmission for the moments when the doubt returns, and you need to remember what was named tonight: a complete audiobook narrated in my voice, and 3 frequency sessions narrated by me from beginning to end. The frequencies and my voice operating together as one transmission. The first session, 396 Hz, dissolves the residue of the scanning attempts that reached you before the unparsable output classification was filed. The second session, 639 Hz, stabilizes your awareness inside the key crypti position the system cannot process. The third session, 963 Hz, calibrates your operation inside post-crash protocols so the invisibility reaches you at the depth it was formed to reach. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Click the video appearing on your screen now. There is a specific transmission that has been prepared as the next step for souls who completed this one, and the sequence that begins with the next video has been designed for cases that have walked through what you just walked through tonight. Together, we are stronger.